Well, good morning, everyone. This is Douglas here from Cape Town, and today we are speaking to Bev, who is in Dublin, Ireland, not Dublin, Columbus. Good morning.
Good morning.
So,
What's it like
did
in the world?
did you
What?
know that today is the 1st of September?
I did.
And did you know that in South Africa, that's the first day of spring?
No.
Ah,
Very autumnal here, I have to say. The weather yesterday was sunny and really quite fresh, warm, kind of nice day. And then today it's cold and grey. And I was
I
like,
know, we're there too. Cold, grey, as though we've had the longest winter. This is like a winter that I grew up with. In fact, I was saying to Amy earlier, last night when I was out in the surf was the first time in a long time where I could actually breathe in the surf and make my own steam.
oh, hey.
And it was like, whoa, this is cool. No wonder aren't that many people out with me today. So it is kind of ironic, like first day of spring, and it's actually like we're in the middle of winter. So, everything's upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So Bev, just to give people a bit of context, you are very important in the whole BeActivated community because you have been amazing at helping organize me and have done a lot in social media and have done been organizing the courses for me in the UK and Ireland. And so really the conversation today is, besides why are you so mad and what drugs are you taking to help you, but what's your story? Why are you in this? Why are you so committed?
Well, I mean, thank you for that anyway. I guess, my story was way back. I mean, I used to see you at FitPro, but I was always running around, and that was, God, I don't know, 12 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
I was running around and I could never get into any lectures because I was working. So I just used to get snips. But it was that one time, I think it was your first time when people were going, there was a whisper going, there was a guy, blah, blah, blah. And there was this curiosity about what he was doing. And I didn't get to you that year. It was the year after. And I saw part of your lecture, and then it was again another year after before I actually got to speak to you at the end of your session. And I just went, Douglas, blah, blah, blah. And you went, I don't know what you've done, and I don't really care, but you're not breathing. And I was like, but I'm a yoga teacher. And you went, yeah, and you gave out to me, and you were saying, well, you must be pretty crap at your job, Bev, and you had this kind of fun about you. And I was going, okay. So you went, until you start breathing, nothing will change. And you, just at that moment there, you gave me, I think, about 3 minutes on the floor by the escalator in London FX. And I had such a bang of, I don't know how to explain it even to this day. And I was thinking, what the hell just happened there? And I couldn't work that weekend. I don't know if you remember, but I was just useless.
Yeah, no, but that's why the guys at FitPro are so good, because when you say the first time I was at FitPro, there were whispers. Actually, at 2 a.m, I had about 25 people sitting in a circle singing Kumbaya. They had no idea what was happening. So the guys at FitPro were, if you just go, Doug did something, they're like, shame, are you all right? Do you want to go sit down? Can we make you a cup of tea?
Seriously, because FitPro at the time was just amazing. We had amazing lecturers from all over the world. So there was always amazing stuff going on. And it was almost overwhelming to say, who can you go to see this year? But it was after the Kumbaya the next morning, all the staff were knackered because they'd been up all night and they had to get up again at 6. And we were always going, what's wrong with you? And they're like, who, Douglas Hill? And it was like, who is he? And then it was somebody who'd done your training said you should get to him if you can. And so I did try, and I didn't that week,
Yeah.
But
I think life always sorts itself out in the right time.
Yeah, so it was about 2 years later before I actually managed to, because they used to send me over to Paul Check's courses. I used to have to go and manage his places. And this one year, they were like, go and sort Douglas out. The sound's not good, get the guys. So I was always kind of in the background organizing sound engineers, equipment, changes, and all of that. That was my role there. So, I mean, I guess that's something that when I first did your course, it was fun. I had no intention of coming back into the world of body. You know, I'd left nursing, social work, looking after people, and I was heading for a career in film. And I'd spent a fortune on this education in film. And I was writing screenplays, and people were starting to be interested. And I was putting the films into the circuits and going to all the festivals and being a real lovey. And it was the second I did the course, and it was fun. I thought, that was brilliant, loved it. And I was thinking, well, I could still use this a little bit, maybe. And it was the second time I came back, which was a year later. And we'd been traveling a lot, and things had kind of gone a bit wrong for us. You know, work personally, we'd moved a lot, and we were both a little bit distracted, I guess. And
you just mean you and your relationship?
Yeah, my relationship. So it was just, it was a difficult time, but I didn't realize. I was thinking, this is great. I've lived in Germany, Holland, Galway, Dublin, but I can't really, I wasn't grounded. I had no substance of where I was going. And it was the second course where it's like, hi, Douglas, and you just went, here's the mirror. And it was just horrible. And I went off that course thinking, I can't do this work. This is just, what is this? But I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then I got into the Facebook page, and I was asking questions, and I kind of figured out very soon that a lot of people were feeling like me. They'd done the course and they didn't know what to do with it. And I'd long since, like I said, you know, I'd trained as a nurse, and then I was in social work, but I'd always been a massage therapist because my mother was a teacher of all of that, and shiatsu. And so I'd had that growing up, so it was always there. And I was thinking, how am I going to do this? I know I'm making a mess of this because it was a real mess in my head at the time. So I'm just right back there. And I'd been injured a couple of years before after an accident with a tram and a Segway tour. And I'd started to study as a physical therapist in Holland, but then we moved, so I didn't finish the training. And it was after that second time where you and I had this exchange in the class, and I was really angry with you. And then I got into the Facebook page, and I found there was a lot of other people feeling the same, but they couldn't put it down. I was like, what the hell is this?
That's terrible. I feel mortified that people get angry with me. You know, and as you know now, just if anyone's watching this, sometimes that's part of the work. Is what's inside has to come out. And if the first person you see as it comes out is me, you're probably going to think I did it. And actually, it was what was in there. And I think this is part of the beauty of teaching, is to know that when someone is having a huge reaction and they're getting angry, it's not about me. I always smile and say, you don't know me well enough to be that angry with me. If you did, you'd be even more angry, but you don't. When, you know, so it's amazing how much stuff we store up inside ourselves, how much chaos, how much whatever. And I don't know if you've noticed, but it seems that a lot of that stuff that people have been holding on to, it's there's less distractions, and I'm finding it myself. More of my old stuff is coming up again, and it's like, holy crap, I thought you were gone. And I'm looking at the circumstances in the world and how it's kind of pushing those buttons on a deeper level.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the world, the way it is at the moment, is created. It's almost created a place where you can be bouncing off all of those awful things that you're facing with, and then seeing what comes up. And you know, I've had a really nice experience this week. But just going back to the social media, how I got involved in that was, when I first came back to Dublin, I needed a job, and my friend says, well, look, I've got something in marketing. I was like, I know nothing about marketing. She goes, it doesn't matter. And she threw me in there and said, just hang around with people and ask questions. So that's what I did for the Elbow Room where I work. I started to write blogs for them and just get involved in how the Facebook was going. And on the Facebook forum, there wasn't so many people on it at the time. There was maybe like 400 people when I kind of joined. And I kept asking questions. There's a few people, just a few core people that were always on there. And I put in a cheat sheet. I gave somebody a cheat sheet.
And you know, of course, I wasn't on there.
No, of course, like nobody
I
knew it.
probably didn't even know it existed at the time.
No, I mean, I know I sent you quite a few emails in that first year, and like obviously nothing came back, but you know, that's
But I was told emails are there for sending, not for receiving.
So how the whole thing of me helping with the social media came about was that I had done, because your first manual was really confusing and I couldn't make a head and a tail of it. So I went.
No, specifically put was written in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. So thanks, both of you, really. You know, lots of support, feeling it, awesome.
Oh, but you see, Douglas, the thing is, when you're on this journey, you start thinking you're the only one who doesn't get it. But then I quickly figured out there was a lot of people like me. So I made this little cheat sheet and I gave it to one guy personally through a private message. And he said, thank you on the forum. And I was inundated by about 200 people asking for this thing that I didn't even know was correct. It was just what I figured out. It was stick men going. And I used to give it to my clients to say, this is what I'm finding, that's your homework. So it was almost like a cheat sheet and also a security blanket for me to remember the sequence. And I used to push and try and get through the whole sequence, what I could remember. And then one day I just went, wow, this is just too much. Douglas released my diaphragm and I had the biggest change for years. So I went right back. And then I started to do the diaphragm release and adding some of the gentle, more simple yogic breaths, like getting into the 3D expansion of breathing and forgetting all these neck breathing, the ujjayas and the hyperventilations.
Me taking a breath, making sure I don't respond to that lovely
but I have gone back to it and I've tested a lot of the yoga breaths against the hamstring, and it's really interesting the results you get. So I'm loving it.
I think we're gonna leave those results to a very different conversation because that one is a fun conversation to have.
It's a hot potato as well, because I then started to have a lot. Oh, we'll talk about it another time. But
yeah,
because I work in a yoga center, initially my clients, when I started up a new clinic, there were yogis or yoga teachers, and they were really confused as to this training that they'd had that was supposed to be so beautiful. It's called victorious breath, and if you get it right, it is. But most people, like 99.9%.
But you know what? I think that's one of the challenges we come up against all the time, isn't it? That there's a lot of real cleverness out there, and if you are clever enough to paint by numbers and get all the numbers in the right sequence in the right place, you will get the effect that they want you to get. So the people are putting it together with the best intent possible, but the complexity of it means that 99% of people never ever get there. So it's always this thing that we are trying to reach and never are going to reach. And we're so bored with that, aren't we? We want to go, hey, you're not breathing. Let's kickstart that Boeing right now and see how your world works when you are breathing. And then it's a totally different perspective.
You kick-started my breath that day in I've never been the same since. In fact, before that, I thought my life was pretty nice. I was traveling, it was great. I was doing, and then suddenly I was like, I have not breathed in years. And this injury that I had was not getting better. And one step forward, two back. It was like that, you know.
But isn't it amazing how, you know, when you're saying, actually, I thought my life was great, and how good we are at doing this. We dragging our leg as we walk, you know, we can't do this and we can't do that, but somehow in that we still manage to tell ourselves, I'm fucking awesome. This is amazing. And I watch it all the time. I watch myself doing it. And kind of like that's why I'm so clear that it's okay at any point to say, you know, I'm having a really bad day. I'm crapping myself today. And especially for me, people go, what? But you're not allowed to be. I'm like, of course I'm allowed to be. I'm allowed to have bad days. There's shit going on in the world. Come on. You know, now that we know that you're having a bad day, do you want to do something with it? And sometimes the answer is, yes, I want to sort it out and I want to feel good. Awesome. And sometimes you want to wallow for a little bit. and you want to indulge yourself and have a pity party. And you're allowed to do that too, knowing that anytime you want to step out, you can. But if you are having a pity party and you can't get out, that's the problem.
Well, that was me earlier this week. I was chewing the charred glass and enjoying it, you know. I was like,
so just so people understand, I'm going to give you'd been separated from John for 5 months because he was stuck in Amsterdam and you were stuck in Dublin. You managed to then eventually organize to go and spend time, 3 weeks with him. Amazing time, rekindle. You know, we chatted a few times when you're in Amsterdam. You guys were on fire. And then you're coming home knowing you've got stuff to do. And then some arbitrary politician goes, as far as I've heard, breaks some rule. And so the whole of Ireland then had to change their rules. And suddenly you had to quarantine for 14 days, whereas that wasn't on the cards before.
It was a little more subtle than that. It was always the 14 days. So our authority is called the HSC.
Okay.
So when I was in Amsterdam, I was checking all the time because I knew I had to be back to teach on the 6th. I've got a whole day's training to do. So I had to be back for then. So I was like, okay, it's 14 days. But the literature was saying, if you're after 5 days, if you're symptom free, you can stop isolating. But there was an issue with a a European, an Irish European official who'd got tested in Belgium and came over to Ireland and gone to a golf event. And because he's a politician, it was criticised publicly. So the HSC then wrote that into the even if you've been in another country and been tested negative, that you still had to isolate for 14 days. So here I am, being isolated.
So suddenly, in a world of uncertainty where you'd created some certainty in your schedule, they then said, "Oh no, sorry, we've changed the rules."
So what that meant?
So you had a pity party.
I did. So I was going to the plane. I was like, don't forget, I've been like. The other thing is, because I was away, we were separated for 5 months. Because John and I have lived in different countries and work-wise, that's been something that's happened sort of often. That's the way our life has been, and it's always worked well. It's worked really well because sometimes we've lived in other countries and we've met in a new country for a weekend, and it's always been beautiful. And always, sometimes it's been shit, but the life is like that. But because I think there was one point where I realized I had not touched another human being right from the beginning. When we first got locked down, I had not touched another human being for about 8 weeks. And when I realized that, I got this fear, this kind of implosion, and that's all I can say, just like a punch. And I felt really sad. And I got that when I was leaving Amsterdam, because I'd had all this oxytocin, I'd had all this love and this contact, and I'm a cuddler, so that was just gorgeous. And I was seeing friends that I'd not seen in 10 years, and it was just gorgeous.
Yeah.
I was going to the plane, and I didn't actually even get to the airport. I just became incredibly stressed.
It's a panic and it's a fear of loss, and it's I'm going back into a restrained place where I'm the stuff that I've so desperately needed, and it's given me my nurturing and my love is going to be taken away again.
Yeah.
And your system's going, no.
Like, John, come back with me. And he's like, I can't, because we both have to isolate. And our apartment in Dublin is tiny. So we have this beautiful big place in Holland. So it's like, it doesn't make sense. We're going to kill each other. We know that. You can't put 2 people.
So what did I hear? That he's the winner. He's got the big space.
No winner. There's always negotiations. Yeah, he has the big space.
But it's okay. But so just sort of tying in the story. So your system crashes.
Totally.
And it's okay.
Douglas, I meditate, and I've got all these beautiful tools, and I practice mindfulness and all of that. And I sat daily crying in my meditation, going, and I was fucking enjoying it, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a cathartic side to it, isn't it? So now, Bev, can I give you like an altered scenario? Imagine that you came back to Dublin and you sat and you got determined, because we know we'll work with lots of clients who come in, I'm determined to do this, and I'm determined not to cry, not to feel, not to be overwhelmed. And they just hold it. So you would have sat in your mindfulness meditation being determined, definitely not mindful or meditating, but not weak, not crying, I will stay strong no matter what. But isn't it the irony is that when you put yourself in a space where you can let go, when you can let the buckets of tears come out, you actually find strength on the other side. It's almost the world says, hey, if you can go to this side, we'll counterbalance you with that side, and so if you had denied what was in you, then actually this would be a very awkward conversation, because I would be, you know me, I'd be poking holes, and next minute we'd have a breakdown, one of us anyway. Probably me, yeah. Very sensitive, but it is. It's amazing when we get that it's okay to feel what comes up, and it's okay to like, as long as you're in a safe space, let it happen. And that's a very important thing. Don't have an emotional breakdown. If you started bawling your eyes out while sitting on the airplane back from Amsterdam, they would have turned the plane around, because it's kind of hard to be bawling your eyes out with tears through your mask. They go, that's not safe. Back we'd go. But you
drunk, actually, really drunk.
You're a real pillar of society. You're really helping here. I love it.
You get drunk. No, I mean, I totally get what you're saying, but you know what it was? What I was doing, all this stuff that I've learned from you, point of focus, change point of focus, and I couldn't, honest to God, I was doing my best to change the focus. And this happens. This is something that kind of hit me as well. Not just this time; it's hit me other times. I can activate on some days and get an amazing result, and other days not. So it depends on what's going on in the head.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting anywhere with the activations. And guess what, Douglas? My shoulder was killing, my jaw, my neck, awesome. Everything was screaming. And I was really dragging my leg. I actually ran up the stairs to my apartment and fell on my knee because my leg gave way. And I was like, what?
You're like a rolling comedy here. This is awesome.
Right,
but you know what's amazing about this? This is what comes up for me when you say that. Is we can talk about points of focus and mindset. And this is for anyone listening. This is really important. But anything that we do is grounded in where are you right now? And that's why we always do before intervention, after. And if you're not doing measurables, you would have to go, how am I feeling? And so what we do is we don't feel the feeling. We just know that we don't like where we're at. And so if I go and activate to try and get away from something that I don't even know what it is, because I'm not willing to look at it, feel it, experience it, well, of course it's not going to go away. I might actually intensify it because I've taken myself deeper into my body and more into that feeling. But and that's the fun part. That's why we're always saying, hey, get up, have a walk. What do you feel? Because we're talking to our neural system. We're talking to our body and saying, hey, I want to check in with you, because this mind up here, it can override and create noise and stories. So I have no clue what's going on here. But if I can get both together doing on the same journey, hey, then life is a very different place. And you can go, wow, that feels like shit. And actually you're strong in sharing that feels like shit.
It did. It felt awful. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I mean, you offered, when you're ready, come and have a chat. And I was like, I actually don't want to talk to anybody. I want to be sitting here in my misery by myself. So I was half-hearted.
And come on, and what good comeback phrase did I give you? Another great use of the mask is so that you can cry into it and absorb the tears.
Crying
any good friend, if they can't support you, must ridicule you. It's the job of friendship. Everyone around the world knows that that's how it works, and it's done with love. It's not done with malicious intent, but it is to be able to say, even in our misery, we can have a bit of a smile.
Well, I went off and got my, my mask where I got the towel in the end, and that was so wet. So I got the crying buckets and all the things you've given me over the years. Here's your buckets of crying. Goodbye. It was all of that. So, but I got, at some point you have to go, this is enough. I was exhausted with just feeling miserable because it's tiring, and you have this imploded body that you're actually feeding this real negative energy. And after a while, it's like, this isn't working either. So get up and sort yourself out. So I got up and I washed my face and I combed my hair, and I was half-heartedly cleaning my office desk. And there's a notebook, loads, because I'm always writing things. And I opened, and it just opened on the page. And one page it said, "Be brave, Bev." And on the other side it said, "In 1 year's time." And it had this list of what I wanted to do. And in that it said, create blocks of time where you have time to develop, not just do. And that's what it said. And at that moment, it was like a breeze went through me. And it was instant.
Yeah. Sweet.
Instant, just like that. And when I think of that now, same thing.
I know you actually look completely different suddenly. It's like someone just turned on a light.
It's almost like a breeze goes through you. Just that's how I feel it. It's like an expansion. Just gorgeous.
Well, it's. I'm going to go deeply philosophical, not really, but like all of the things. Like good music is not about the notes; it's about the spaces between it. And I think this is what we forget. Like that's what makes it good. It's the pauses in between. The reason why having a heart rate that's too high, why that's a problem, is there's less space in between each heartbeat for the body to actually go and have a little rest. So if you have a lower heart rate, you have more resting time. That's as simple as this. And it's those spaces in between that create the power and the resilience in the system. And so this world, like my complaint for the last probably 10 days is, it's longer, but it feels like in the mornings I wake up and Carl, yes, this is on you. There are messages from Carl in Australia because we're setting up a whole lot of stuff. And then there are emails. And so it's the Australia side. And then there's stuff in Indonesia. And then almost as the day, then it becomes Europe, and then it goes to the States, and all the stuff that I'm doing with Tim, with the social media and the platforms, that's all in the evening. And so suddenly the day starts whenever I wake up. Like it starts. Like I sometimes dread putting my phone on in the morning, because it's like there's a whole world that happens. And so it's so weird because the boundaries are different. It's all blurred. And so carving out space is a lot harder to do now. And a lot of people are finding carving out space because actually you might be out in the world a bit, but you're still at home mostly. The world's still on a semi-lockdown, whatever you do. So you're at home more. You've got less space with the people you care about, but you're still there. There's less. And so I have got to become more disciplined at creating spaces that are just mine, that are, and you've kind of realized just by being reminded through something you wrote, which is beautiful. So it was like you already knew what the answer was. You just wrote it a year ago.
And I got the wish, because the wish was to create blocks of time where I didn't have to be running from clinic to client to finding my next something.
Yeah.
And then what that did was it reframed the fact that I have been enforced into a lockdown, even though I tested negative in the test. And I'm healthy and I have not one symptom. What that means is I've actually got time to think and not to complain. So, the first 5 days were just ruminating. And like, I was even reading like Dante's Inferno and all those real like dark
That's
things.
all really helpful. Yeah.
Faust and, on all these like really dark operas. And then suddenly it's like, oh, Doris Day.
There we go. But you know what's interesting about that is eons ago, it certainly feels like many moons, many lifetimes ago, I had 3 practices, physio practices, and I burnt out because I overwhelmed myself and I left, and I I stopped doing any treating, any healing, any whatever for over a year. And interestingly, one of the guys I worked with that year, Dietmar, I was speaking to him the other day. It was rather nice to connect. And I was actually running programs and newsletters and stuff on something called the Beamer, electromagnetism. So I got to learn physiology from a whole different place. But when I eventually got back to treating and seeing clients again, it was a necessary thing. It was time. But I was so aware how I had crowded my space and given myself no space to function, that when I went back, I worked a Monday, a Wednesday, and a half day on Friday. And I'd say Tuesdays, Thursdays, Friday afternoon, and obviously the weekend were for surfing. But actually, it was in those times that I got to contemplate what I was doing in my practice. It was in those times that the systems started to fall into place. It was in those times that I realized what was happening, and then that it could be duplicated and we could teach. It was in those times I could have coffees with someone who would then invite me to come and present, which would then open the next door. So without the spaces, without the time, the opportunities don't exist. There's no space for them to come in. And that's what you reminded me of right there. I haven't thought about it for a while. And actually one last thing, because it's so relevant, is so there's a minister called Peter Fox, who he worked with my dad before he died, and he married Amy and me, and he also did Matt's naming ceremony. And he got a hold of me the other day, and we went off and had lunch. But when he did this, he also said, I'm sorting out my office and I found your old pamphlet, which is the pamphlet from when I went back into my practice. And it said, Douglas Heel, physiotherapist, kinesiologist, Beamer specialist, and oh my God, intuitive healer. And I was like, wow, Peter, that's crazy. I often say I was a lot more clear. And it's amazing when you step out into the world that like people go, wow, Doug's a little intuitive. I go, yeah, no, I just pick up the cues. But in those days, I was actually willing to own that there was a huge intuitive side, and most of the people were coming for that anyway. But it was amazing because he goes, geez, this has been sitting here for about 18 years. So it's amazing, but it's in the spaces is where the magic happens. And this is for all of us. And right now you might be going, yeah, but I'm sitting at home and I've got so much space. No, you don't. You're filling it. People are filling it with so much noise. Geez, Netflix. How many times have you watched that series again? Because there's nothing better to do, or done this or done that. I'm pretty bad at sitting. And the one place I find sitting is good is in the ocean. And I'm going to have to get a waterproof notebook one day, because there's a whole lot of stuff that comes up, and usually, and the ocean holds me to account beautifully. But it's the spaces that you find is where you actually find yourself.
It is. Really, that's lovely. That's really lovely.
And here's the thing, just if you know where you are and I know where I am, now we can go into the world and act as reference points for other people who are lost. But if I'm lost and you're lost, how do we help anyone? And my goal is not to, hey, how do we fix someone? How do we act as a reference point so that they can find where they are and engage, and then anything's possible.
What's just come up for me there was when I first started to do this work, it was always trying to fit everything in. And that's really what your life is like, trying to fit everything in. And once I stepped back from trying to activate an entire body and just seeing what I got, then things changed in my clinic too. And then I became better at communicating that with the client, like, this is where you're at and where you go, and we can't move until we kind of agree, or you understand this process, or that outside when you leave here. So for example, you get a client who get a good result, and then a week later they ring you and say, my shoulder's bad again, or whatever. And you go, okay, well, remember what we were talking about, what did you do? And it's like trying to get them to own it as well. But I found like doing that in the clinic on that first meeting. Yeah. So I call it it's a contract, but I call it, a well-formed outcome. So it's like, this is our well-formed outcome. So you're going to tell me your history. At some point, I'm going to go, that's enough history. What do you want from this session? And then that's what we get. And that's
and now we can map where your history is and what your outcome that you desire is. And this is what it will take for you, not for me, for you to do.
And then they can't then change that. Go, well, you came in with a shoulder, but since you treated me, my knee is sore. Yeah, okay, we'll come back and we'll look at that. Why? Let's see how that's working through the body now. And that kind of made it a lot more intelligent for me as well, like having to step back and work slowly and
but slowly also creates enough space for them to take on. You know, and this is why it's such an important thing when we're doing sessions, is that when someone has a massive physiological shift, an aha moment, the temptation to then go, oh, that's awesome, but there's more. And how hard is it for us to get that message across to everyone? That's the moment where you step back and you let them take ownership of what's going on, because if you don't, they never get it. And the neural system and the physiology and the whole everything, the whole human being doesn't get it. And so now you actually have to put work in. Whereas when we let those things unravel, almost all the work happens right there. And it's the stepping back and creating the space that can do it.
It's like this is so beautiful, because this is just led into something. There's a huge difference between seeing you up there teaching on a workshop with that joyful evilness that you have, and going, but wait, there's more. That's not your job as a therapist when you're doing a one-to-one with a client. That's not your job. You're not teaching a room full of people who are excited and want to learn more. And I think that for me was like, this is not because I did that in the beginning. I remember one particular woman, I talked to you about this way back, but she'd come in with so much pain, and we got to zone 2, amazing changes, amazing. She's a nurse, she's working long hours on ICU, and we had such a great rapport. And then she said, what's this visual field stuff? And I went, oh.
So, new toy, shiny toy, yeah.
Swear to God, it was like I unplugged her.
Yeah.
All of this went like, and I was really fearful about what I'd done. Then I realized,
well, you should be. And this is why when people are going, oh, I want the level 2 stuff, I want this. They always want the thing that's further along. No, the basics are there for a reason, because there's too much of if the body's not safe to put the next layer on, well, then you're going to undermine the body and overwhelm it. And we know this. But the problem is we're all trained to, I need more, give me more shiny things, more cleverness. And as you know, there are thousands of things. Guys out there, if you're listening to this, we could do level 1 to 97. 97. In fact, after lockdown, it's probably more. And each of those would be 20 hours each. How friggin' exciting. But just because you can do something in level 81 doesn't mean you've done a good job, because if you don't get the stuff that's level 1, your basic stuff, you are not going to be effective, because you haven't made the most important thing, is the system safe enough to do the change, to bring in all of the stuff that we bring in. And it's so easy to get caught up. And I've done it 1,000 times where, wait, there's more. Let me show you how clever I am, and the minute it's I'm clever, there's the pin in the balloon, because it's not about me.
Going back to that situation, the most beautiful thing that happened next was that, I said, it's okay, we'll get you back on the table. We just kind of hit switch. I knew in my mind, like I just kind of hit the default button where she'd gone back into that passion. So we started again with the activation, and again at zone 2. Thank God I didn't have another client straight after, that was the only thing. So she walked out really happy and impressed, and sent me 10 people. But but that was me, my ego getting ahead of
but also credit to you is that you recognized what it was and you went back to what you knew worked and you reestablished the safety in the situation and addressed it. And sometimes our egos don't even want to acknowledge that that was us. I did that. I screwed that up. That was for me, not for you. And then we have a problem because, the space is never safe because you're almost going, oh, to your client, I don't know what your body's doing because it's you, not me. And it's actually, no, actually that one was me. And
me.
Which is kind of why, on a certain level, why alcohol and activation don't go that well together.
Do tell us why.
Well, because boundaries get blurred, and then watching someone deflate is just kind of entertaining.
Yes,
so that's why, I don't know what will happen when we all start doing the things in Portugal at the International Training Center, because we're all going to be in one big hotel across the road. So there will be a lot of different kinds of learning going on, but that's just another time, another era. But so Bev, yeah, you can see. So as I've, this is interview number 3, and on Sunday I spoke to Nuno, and yesterday morning I spoke to Carl, and today I'm speaking to you. And again, I've said it to both of them. I think there are a lot more conversations for us to have. This is a starting point. We are going to be talking, well, I'm going to be talking to lots of people in the community, but we've got a lot of history and a lot of experiences, and you've got a lot of evil things to say about me and what it is like to organize workshops for someone as pedantic and chaotic as I. But that's for another day. So I'm going to ask you now if you have like a final for this part. What's a final thought for someone that if you would say, here's my one-liner for where I am in activation right now, and then afterwards we'll go into the question.
One-liner. I don't do one-liners. I would just say, if you're starting off, get yourself a little cheat sheet and use that to guide you, and don't be afraid of doing that and sharing that with your client and saying, this is what I found, this is your homework. That worked for me, and that helps me and my clients to communicate